Welcome to Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy, where we seek to educate, motivate, and inspire professionals into starting their own healthcare businesses. Learn from leading healthcare entrepreneurs and other business experts as they share their journey and provide a glimpse into their playbooks for success. Loaded with valuable insights and actionable strategies, this show will guide you on your path to freedom. Now, please welcome your host, entrepreneur and healthcare practitioner, Jason Duprat.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for our introductory episode 000 of the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy podcast. I just want to welcome you and thank you for tuning in for this introductory episode. This first episode is just designed to give you some background information to help you sort of understand what the podcast is about, a little bit about me, and what I aim to accomplish with this podcast. So my name is Jason Duprat, and I'm here to not only host this show, but also provide loads of hopefully valuable information and hopefully also serve as a mentor that can help you grow as an entrepreneur. So in this episode, I want to just, like I said, take a few minutes to let you know what you can expect from this show and to tell you a little bit about my background and motivation for creating the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy podcast. So the mission of this podcast is to educate, motivate, and inspire listeners to become healthcare entrepreneurs. The reason I want to do that is because I worked as a W-2 employee for an extensive period of time. Ever since I was 15, I had my first job, and I never really was exposed to entrepreneurship. And so I was able to start my own business part-time while working as a certified registered nurse anesthetist. And the challenges, the rewards, and the opportunities have been absolutely phenomenal. And so I've just been able to not only leave that full-time position, W-2 position, but I've also been able to sort of experience a totally different way of life. Now I have control of my schedule. Now I can earn potentially unlimited amounts of income, whereas being a W-2 employee, you have capped income. You're typically not going to get substantial raises beyond the 2 to 3% that most people are getting every year. You know, once I sort of saw the light, I wanted to create something to not only help myself learn, but to sort of share with everybody some valuable insight and tips from other entrepreneurs in the healthcare space that you can learn from and hear their story and hopefully connect with. So that's the motivation behind this podcast. So if you're interested in becoming a healthcare entrepreneur, if you're interested in leveraging your healthcare background and want to learn more about entrepreneurship and the potential opportunities that are out there, then you're definitely going to want to stay tuned into this podcast and subscribe, because I'm going to be bringing you some real world business experts. These guests will be sharing their story during the interview, and sort of along the interview, my goal is to extract knowledge and golden nuggets from these entrepreneurs who have real hands-on business experience. And so I'm going straight to the experts in order to give you the most valuable nuggets from people who are actually hands-on in their businesses. So every guest I invite onto the show is going to be a real living, breathing entrepreneur. Most of them are going to be in the healthcare space, or somehow their business serves the healthcare space. We'll also be hopefully tapping into some other business leaders. So people who talk about taxes, finance, leadership, anything that's applicable to becoming a successful entrepreneur. But the primary goal is to get experienced healthcare entrepreneurs onto this show that can really sort of shine some light onto the opportunities that are there. One thing you may not know about me is that I'm actually 2 classes away from finishing my MBA. And one of the things I've come to realize after completing 2 bachelor's degrees, one of them was in business, one was in nursing, and a master's degree in anesthesiology, and then almost being done with this MBA program, is that our education system is not only extremely expensive, but it's overly focused on teaching what's oftentimes useless theory, and the information that's being taught is often years old, if not decades old. And so just think about the textbooks, for example, that you get in college. I mean, we're learning from textbooks that often take 2 to 3 years to write and publish. And so even if you're studying from the newest textbooks in your college courses, they are oftentimes at least 2 to 3 years out of date. And so another goal of this podcast is to bring you the most up-to-date, real-world information. No theory, no useless information that you'll never use. The goal here is to bring you actionable nuggets that you can use to implement your own business. So not only are most universities around the country teaching information that's at least 2 to 3 years old, but oftentimes these instructors that are teaching these courses have either never been business owners, or maybe if you're lucky and you get somebody who's kind of good, maybe they were a business owner in the past, but still their information is not the most relevant and up to date. Things change incredibly fast in this digital age, and that's another reason why I want to bring you this podcast. Now, many of you listening are probably healthcare professionals of some sort, and this show aims to not sort of tailor to any specific specialty. We're going to have entrepreneurs from all specialties, all walks of life on this show. And I'm a huge believer that we all are in the same space. We all have so many different experiences. We can all learn from each other and help each other grow. And I don't see the purpose or the need to segment listeners based on degrees, credentials, healthcare background. This show is intended to bring everybody together. There's enough of the segmentation that's already going on where there's organizations specific to one degree type, one credential type, one type of certification. My goal with this podcast is to bring everybody together to get this huge wealth of knowledge from all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences, and bring everybody together to learn it all in one spot, because there's so much that somebody from a different specialty might be able to bring to the table as far as their perspective goes, that I feel like if you're isolating one particular type of credential, you're missing out on a lot of valuable information and experience. So as healthcare professionals, we spend years, if not decades, in school. If you're a physician, most of us during that time are not taught anything about business opportunities that exist in healthcare. Most of us are taught absolutely nothing about setting up a business, marketing a business, scaling a business, legal aspects of business, absolutely none of that, which is crazy to think. And it's really a shame, because it's been my experience that starting and growing my own business has created a level of professional satisfaction that I've never even come close to experiencing as a W-2 employee. So just take a minute and think about what it means to be an employee. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like bashing W-2 employee jobs. Pretty much every entrepreneur starts at a W-2 as a W-2 employee. I personally don't know any entrepreneurs that didn't start out as a W-2 employee. I've had many W-2 employee jobs, and I'm really grateful to have had those jobs. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And, these jobs that I've had in the past help me to provide for me and my family, help me live comfortably. They help me to learn and grow as a professional. And so I'm not talking down on anybody who's a W-2 employee. For me personally, my experience has been that owning a business is the best way to not only obtain professional happiness and professional satisfaction, but it's a way to gain complete freedom over your time and your future. There's some really prominent CPAs and successful business people who actually believe that there are two tax systems in the United States, and one is set up for the W-2 employee and one is set up for the independent contractor or employer or business owner. And the difference between those two tax systems is absolutely staggering. And so, in my opinion, absolutely everybody should at least own a side business, a small little side hustle, if for nothing else than to just produce some additional income and at the same time take advantage of all of the tax deductions that are available for business owners. And the government is super supportive of businesses. They want businesses to grow and thrive in the U.S., and so they provide all sorts of tax advantages and discounts to business owners so that our economy can continue to thrive. And so I think everybody should be taking advantage of these in some fashion. So let's just talk about real quick what it means to be an employee. Just think about some of the restrictions that are placed on you when you're an employee. So typically your job is going to dictate when you need to arrive to work and when you will go home and finish your job for the day. And by being an employee, your employer is controlling essentially the time that you have to go to bed and the time that you wake up. And so that's just sort of the start. They will control when you can take your breaks. They will control if you even get a break. A lot of places I've worked as a nurse, no breaks were even available because it was just so busy. We would eat in the break room in like 5 minutes, and that was considered our lunch break, which was absolutely crazy. Also, as an employee, you're always going to be creating more revenue for your employer than you're actually being paid. And so that's one of the disadvantages is that, for the more value you bring, you're not necessarily always getting a financial reward at the end of that transaction. And this is just a fact of being an employee. If an employer would hire somebody who delivered less value than they were being paid, there would be 0 point in being in business. They would be losing money. So every employee needs to deliver more value than they're being paid. And the business owner is the one who benefits from that, not the employee. And rightfully so, because being a business owner is hard work. It involves the owner putting their time and money at risk. And so they should get paid more. But for me personally, I would like to be on the receiving end of the financial rewards for my extremely hard work and dedication and value that I bring. Also, as an employee, especially in the healthcare space, you're probably going to be told which holidays you need to give up with your family. I know for me personally, some of these jobs have had sort of like raffles or they've had some sort of seniority system in place. And so you may not be told exactly which holiday you're going to work, but oftentimes you're putting your top holiday requests off into a list, and there's a really good chance you're not going to get some of those or even all of those, depending on where you work. And so that's just another downside, I think, of being an employee. And I hope it's something that I don't have to go back to again, because I really enjoy being a business owner. And if there's a holiday that I want to spend time with my family, I can close the business down for that day. I can not operate, or I could restrict the types of businesses that I even get involved with or start to those businesses that don't even require holiday work. It's up to me. I'm in control. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship and being a business owner. And for me, when I was an employee, I was never actually excited to go to work. I was never just fired up beyond like maybe the first few weeks of a new job. I was never like super excited and thrilled and motivated to get up and go to work and make money for somebody else. It didn't get me excited. It was exciting for the first few weeks of a new job or maybe a few months. And then that excitement went away. And then it just becomes sort of like, for me, it was like a boring sort of grind. Like, I've got to get up again. I've got to go to bed at whatever, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in order to get up for these 5:30 a.m. starts. And so for me, that was another drag of being an employee. But now as an entrepreneur, my mind is always racing with ideas on how to make myself better, how to make my business better. I always wake up energized and motivated because I know that I have control of my own destiny, and I'm going to reap the rewards and reach the income level that's just completely not even possible when you're an employee. And so for me, the thought of returning to being a full-time employee is just something that's sort of unfathomable now that I've experienced the other side. The thought that I've even lived so unhappy and so unmotivated for so many years as an employee just sort of makes me cringe a little bit. But I did not know any better. I had no idea that using my healthcare background, I could potentially start a business and live a better lifestyle. I just didn't know that opportunities like that exist. Growing up as a kid and through all these years of formal education, there was literally almost no exposure to entrepreneurship, especially healthcare entrepreneurship. Nearly every family member that I had was a W-2 employee. My dad was a prison guard. He made probably throughout his career, started at $30-something thousand a year, and at the end, maybe made $50-something thousand. For most of his working life, though, he was probably $40,000 a year, and he had 4 kids. He did have pension. He had benefits. It was safe, but it was definitely not for him. Did not appear to be exciting or motivating to have to go to work and do the same thing every day, only knowing that, he's getting a 2 or 3% raise, all for the hope of just getting a pension and a retirement. And that's one thing too I wanted to mention. Speaking of pensions, those lovely benefits are soon to be a thing of the past. All these companies, all major companies, are moving away from offering pension packages. Even the military just recently made a move to shift to a 401k. And so they're reducing their pension payouts by starting a 401k match program. And I think in the future that people with pensions are lucky they will, if they ever get paid their pensions for an extended period of time, because these pension funds are completely mismanaged. They're going broke left and right. And if you can just do a Google search on this, and you can see how the pensions funds during the last recession, so many of them were going bankrupt and not able to make any payments. And so if somebody's holding on to a W-2 position just because of a pension, I would strongly recommend sort of reconsidering that, especially if you're really new into that pension system, because there's a good chance it may not be there. And I think the retirement plans that can be created as an entrepreneur far outweigh what you might receive as a pension beneficiary. And that's just another reason why I think everybody should be taking advantage of entrepreneurship, starting businesses. There's just so many advantages to it. The timing is ripe. You can start part-time. You can expand and grow into something larger, something full-time if you choose. And hopefully this podcast will set you in the direction to doing just that. So like I said, in my family, even my mom was a gas station clerk. She was then a foreman in a factory. She worked at a factory where she printed logos on cups, pens, frisbees for different advertising types of materials. And I actually even worked there for a summer. I ran a pencil printing machine and a frisbee printing machine as a summer job once. So almost nobody in my immediate family was a business owner or could expose me to entrepreneurship. I had one aunt, my Aunt Yvonne. She had her own business that her and her husband started that did quite well. And not surprisingly, she was the most successful professionally out of anybody in my family. You know, she lived in a nice house. She lived in a nice neighborhood. She drove nice cars. She traveled overseas to South America, to Chile, which is where my dad's entire side of the family is from. And so other than her, I had no exposure to anybody who was an entrepreneur, had their own businesses, or even had that sort of mindset at all. I'm so glad that I was able to discover podcasts and books, because they are what provided me with the foundational knowledge and confidence that I needed to make the leap to becoming an entrepreneur myself. I can tell you that most of that knowledge and most of that confidence did not come as a result of formal education in business. Definitely not from an MBA program, which most MBA programs, just like the one I'm in now, they teach you how to be an employee. They teach you how to go work for a large corporation and be a manager. They do not focus on entrepreneurship. And so if anybody's out there thinking that they need to get an MBA in order to be an entrepreneur, that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of what I'm learning right now is completely not applicable to being a business owner. If I had to guess, I would say maybe 80% of it is completely useless to what I'm trying to do in creating small businesses. The other 20% is something that's applicable, but something that you can learn easily anywhere else, like books and podcasts. So hopefully this podcast will be that sort of guiding light for you if you're considering becoming an entrepreneur and leveraging your healthcare background to create a business in the healthcare space. If you really sit down and think about the system that exists today, it's really easy to see why only a small percentage of people actually become business owners. And even a smaller percentage of that are successful business owners. It's because the education system, universities are run by employees. Courses, like I said, are typically instructed by W-2 employees. Hospitals and clinics are staffed by employees. And so it's really not hard to see why most people move through the education system and through life as an employee and don't get much exposure to entrepreneurship. And sometimes when you bring up your business ideas at work, you try to share your ideas, bounce ideas off of other W-2 employees. Everybody thinks you're absolutely crazy for trying to be a business owner, because in their eyes, their W-2 job is like the safest, best thing you could possibly have. And so hopefully with this podcast, we will be able to bring you some more exposure. You will be able to connect in the Facebook groups with other entrepreneurs and bounce ideas off of them. And so you don't have to feel like you're alone on an island as you try to start your business. So like I was mentioning before, one of the goals of this podcast is to help shine some light onto the variety of ways that someone can become a healthcare entrepreneur. And I just want to open that door so that everybody can see what the actual possibilities are to create a community of successful healthcare entrepreneurs and provide some exposure, provide some ideas, provide some tips to help leverage your healthcare background and your knowledge and experience to start some sort of healthcare related business. And I totally get it that not everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship. Not everybody can handle the pressure. Not everybody is willing to grind it out and work the hours that are needed as you're getting started. If you're starting a brand new business, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of learning. So not everybody's cut out for that. And not everybody can handle the pressure of being a business owner. Not everybody is a good strategist. Not everybody is a good decision maker when it comes to business or finances. But for those of you who want to reach the pinnacle of both professional happiness and do very well financially, it's been my experience that entrepreneurship is by far the best way to be able to achieve both of those. And don't get me wrong, I do think that being an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, is a challenge. And like I said, there's many hurdles. Many business owners may not succeed on their first try at entrepreneurship. But if you go back and you look at some of the most successful business owners that ever existed, almost every single one of them had what would be commonly referred to as a failure. And I use that term lightly because a failure is just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to not make the same mistake when you're in your next business or when a similar situation arises. And that's sort of where this show comes in. My goal is not only to help you open your eyes to the wide variety of opportunities that you have in the healthcare entrepreneurship space, but to sit down with those experts who are actually successfully doing just this. There's actually a quote that I really love, and I was Googling it, but I couldn't find out who originally said it. But the quote was, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Fools learn from experience." So by bringing successful entrepreneurs directly to you in this interview show that you'll be listening to either on the podcast, watching on the YouTube channel, or maybe even joining us live on Facebook for the behind the scenes live recordings of the show, you are going to be able to learn from these successful entrepreneurs. You're going to learn some mistakes to avoid. You're going to be able to get some actionable advice and hear each entrepreneur's story, and you're going to hear their entire journey. And so I hope to provide you with the exposure to other entrepreneurs so that you can learn from them, so that you can have somebody to look up to, somebody to connect with, and aspire to achieve things similar to what they have. This is what I strive to achieve with this podcast. And I hope I can deliver the goods. And I just want to put out there that I am here to connect with you. I want to connect with you. I want to get your feedback. So reach out to me on social media. Reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to hear what you think I can do better on the show. I want to know if you have a certain guest that you think that you want to hear from. I would love to know that because I can go and reach out to them and try to get them on the show. So definitely don't be shy. I'm here to help you any way that I can. And if you find value in what I'm bringing on this show, then all I do is ask that you please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then be sure to leave a rating and a written review, because that is actually the biggest thank you I can get from anybody, because without subscribers or reviews, especially the written reviews, it's really hard to get sort of the show out there and nobody's going to know about it. And my goal is to help as many potential healthcare entrepreneurs as possible. And so that motivates me. The more traction this show's getting, the more people I could potentially help, the more motivating that is for me. These podcasts don't make any money. Most podcasters put these together, especially in the beginning, and don't make a penny for oftentimes years. Money is certainly not my motivation for doing this. My motivation is to help you, to bring you the knowledge that not only I'm looking for as a growing entrepreneur, but the knowledge that you will need and you will find valuable to succeed in your business. You can keep me motivated by subscribing, liking, sharing, and leaving written reviews, because that is going to help this show get traction, and traction keeps me motivated. Seeing that I'm being able to help others keeps me motivated. I really appreciate you for doing that. Definitely if you can take the time to do that, I would really appreciate it. And so just a moment ago, I mentioned that you can watch the recordings on Facebook Live. So I just wanted to cover how that is possible and how you can get access to those. So all the podcast interviews are being recorded live on Facebook, and they can be watched in a Facebook group called the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy Facebook group. You can just search it in the search bar in Facebook and click join. Alternatively, you can go to jasonduprat.com/group, and right there you can click the join button. And so I'd love to have you join me on those live interviews if it's possible, because you're actually able to interact. You can interact with me and the guest. You can ask questions during the live interview. I actually read through the questions that come in and present them to the guest, so that way you can get your questions answered. You can get feedback. That's something I'm really excited about. I don't think any podcasters are doing anything like that. And so I'm happy to bring that option to you. So definitely join us on the lives if you're free when we're doing them. Interact with the guests, interact with me. These Facebook Live interviews are going to then be edited, and a few weeks later, they will be posted to the podcast feed. And so we will be releasing one interview episode per week. And I'm also going to be releasing one solo episode a week. And I'm just going to jump on the mic and share with you what I've been learning that week, what courses I've been taking, maybe some valuable information I've picked up. And I'm just going to be sharing that with you and sort of providing you with some insight into my own entrepreneurial journey. So I would absolutely love feedback on that. I would love for you to shoot me topic ideas that you might have for the solo episodes as well. I'm here to help you guys however I can. And so your feedback will be key to helping me deliver you the goods that are going to be helping you most. So hopefully that gives you a really good idea of what this podcast is about, how many episodes will be released, how many interviews we'll be doing per week, and why I've decided to put this podcast together for you. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm absolutely excited to have you as a listener, and I hope that I can help you along your journey. So we will see you on the first episode.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy. Want to connect with more like-minded healthcare entrepreneurs and professionals? Just head over to jasonduprat.com/group to join our Facebook family for real-time interactions, insight, and resources to get you one step closer to realizing your goal. We look forward to interacting with you, but until then, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Healthcare Entrepreneur Academy.